Single wide salute. I'm Lord Maitreya, the hip hop futurist. You're now tuned into the Super Longevity Institute podcast. This evening, I have a special guest. He is a speaker and a writer of transhumanism and emerging technologies. He is a co-founder of Transhumanism Australia, a community of technologists dedicated to helping society transcend the limitations of our human biology. Let me say that again. Dedicated to helping society transcend the limitations of our human biology using science and technology. He has worked on technology and growth initiatives at KPMG, helping organizations navigate and flourish in these unprecedented times of accelerating changes and disruption. He is on the advisory board for SingularityU Australia and a member of the Science Party and a co-creator of the Transhuman Coin. I'm very excited to hear more about that. Ladies and gentlemen, Transhumanists worldwide, Mr. Peter Xing. Welcome to the Institute. It's a pleasure
Thank you
to have
so
you
much. Thank you so much, Maitreya. It's a pleasure and honor.
You in Australia, Sydney, huh?
Yeah, we're in lockdown right now. I can't wait to get out these doors and have some picnics or something like that. We're easing up the restriction levels. And one day we'll be able to get out there, and I can't wait to visit you guys over in the States again.
Yes, we would love to have you. When you come, you could definitely look me up. I will show you all around New York City and not just the tourist parts.
Yeah, check out some of the awesome murals over there too.
Oh, yeah. And that's one thing we do have in common. Sydney has some of the best artworks, some of the best murals in the world. I've seen a lot of murals in Sydney that I was very impressed with. So shout outs to all the artists out there.
Awesome.
Yes.
You know, we're living in a time where, you know, all this artwork is just sort of sitting around in the streets and it's hard to access during COVID. So I think with some of the amazing initiatives we're seeing in the blockchain space with NFTs, putting this out there and putting into virtual reality, then the entire world can enjoy it, and the artists can actually make some money finally out of all this times during lockdowns.
Yes.
And it's just an amazing time.
Let me ask you, how'd you get into transhumanism?
Yeah, I mean, I was working in a research area at old school. So this is a Center for the Edge, they called it at Deloitte. And this is before I joined KPMG. And it was looking at, you know, where we're going to be the next 5 to 10 years. And essentially my role was researching on the impact of AI, you know, for businesses, for society, for individuals. And that led me down the rabbit hole through the Ray Kurzweil work at Singularity University, that there's a partnership there. And from there, I discovered this transhumanism movement. So this was back in 2014. And it just came to me. It's like, why isn't more people talking about this? You know, there's science and technology that we could have in the future where we could extend our healthy human lifespans. I can't think of any greater sort of goal or purpose in life than to give yourself more time, because you never know, by the time you reach the end of your life, you could be wanting more time to spend with your loved ones, whether to pursue new careers, to discover more things around the universe and what the whole meaning is, you know, around, is there a unifying theory of, you know, physics between general relativity and quantum mechanics. There's just so much things to know in the future. At the same time, it's understanding how that interaction with artificial intelligence will be with our human biology. So potentially one day we could link up our brains to the cloud and actually merge with super intelligence. That's going to be so much more exciting because it's expanding our capacity to even think about some of these things. And that's what we mean in transhumanism, about transcending the limitations of our human biology through science and technology. And also, the well-being side. So no one gets left behind in this movement. I'm
glad you said that, because you know, a lot of people that I speak to are a little afraid of the idea of transhumanism, and it's, you know, I guess when you have new ideas, it can be scary to some people. They can, you know, people, you know, if they never heard of it and are familiar with an idea, it might sound a little strange to them. So that's kind of understandable. You're also part of this. Well, let me backtrack real quick. How many is in Sydney? I wonder how many transhumanists is in Australia, Sydney. Is there
Yeah,
like
we have a
any?
meetup group.
You
Yeah,
do?
so it's Transhumanism Sydney, and there's about 1,200 members in there at the moment. So it's
Uh,
still a relatively small portion of the population, but you can see this sort of movement is becoming a little bit more mainstream now that
mhm.
the billionaires are talking about this sort of stuff. You know, you got
Yeah.
Elon Musk talking about Neuralink. You got Jeff Bezos talking about longevity, investing billions of dollars into this Altos Labs.
Mhm.
So we're seeing that these topics that used to be taboo, we live with this narrative that you're born, you grow up, you're meant to have some kids, then you're meant to grow old and just pass away. We're
Mhm.
getting to a time where we could start challenging that narrative because science and technology have caught up to actually enable these sort of things to extend our human lifespans. And we're seeing, they're putting brain implants into people that have lock-in syndrome or, have these permanent disabilities. We're enabled them to have these super abilities now with these brain computer interfaces to reuse their arms again, or through robotics, and help people that essentially that are currently suffering from these diseases to be cured. But I think at the same time that opens the doorway to people to be enhanced and have super abilities as a result of these technologies. Eventually we're going to expand our memories, increase our
Mhm.
processing speeds of thinking, and access the super intelligence that is in the cloud. So this
Well,
membership is starting to grow a little bit faster than I thought.
well, I guess let me just go into it then. Where's this money going to come from, and how important is blockchain to transhumanism? Just 'cause as a technology.
Yeah, I mean, we've been trying to find an economical, viable way to support the community for since the entire thing began over 6 years ago in Australia, and finally, I mean, we tried to do in 2017 an ICO, initial coin offering for transhumanism, but that's when the market crashed, and it was at a time where it was like, okay, let's just wait a few more years before this technology becomes mature. So blockchain has gone through the hype cycle. You might have heard from Ghana Emerging Technologies, the hype cycle of initially the technologies invented, goes through the hype, and then it just sort of goes down because of these high expectations that won't materialize. I think now we're at a time we're past that trough of disillusionment and we're finding hitting that productivity level because things like NFTs, the digital identification on the blockchain, and the tokenomics that's enabled through these tokens, these community tokens, that's enabling an economic incentive for community members to actually support things like transhumanism as a movement. So yeah, naturally, that's where this transhuman coin began. We worked with South African
Excuse me.
colleagues. These guys, the African, essentially these African transhumanism
Yes.
advocates.
Mhm.
So Dr. Charles was one of the most prominent African transhumanists in South Africa. He migrated from Nigeria, and they're sort of the founding team members. And when we heard that this project had just kicked off at the start of August, we couldn't wait to start partnering and collaborating with them. So Transhumanism Australia now holds Transhuman Coin, and we're essentially now allowing our members to hold Transhuman Coin and supporting the movement through this. And it's having skin in the game as a transhumanist all around the world.
This is the first transhumanist coin,
That's right.
digital
That's
coin,
right.
right? Wow.
Exactly. And it should have been done earlier, but I think
Yeah.
someone's finally implemented it through our Transhuman Coin with Dr. Charles, Jenny from the admin team, Elise on the dev team. And so there's just a whole bunch of people now coming together. We have a scientific advisory board to determine where the tokens will be donated to. So it's a research and charity token, really supporting the transhuman projects all around the world, whether it's looking at longevity, whether it's looking at super intelligence, and whether it's looking at how to improve well-being through things like universal basic income. Our initial focus is going to be on lifespan. So lifespan.io is we're having a call actually in about 40 minutes time with the lifespan.io team
Oh,
to
shout outs
get
to
that
them.
initial donation going. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah,
with
shout outs to them. They're doing great work over there. I watch them. I love them.
it's
They're
so
doing
amazing.
great
And Keith
work.
was so amazing to meet. That was 5 years ago, or
Yeah.
6 years ago now in New York. So yeah, that's the crowdfunding campaign that they've been running for these, emerging transhuman longevity projects. Is a perfect way because everybody has skin in the game for longevity. We all have this ticking time bomb that the aging process is causing in our bodies. So it should be a bottom up driven initiative as well as trying to push for what governments could be doing in the funding space.
How long did it take to put this coin together and get everything together? Was it difficult? I know after you mint the coin, I mean, how long did it take to put this coin together? Like, I don't know too much about blockchain and
Yeah,
digital currency. I'll be honest, I don't.
yeah. I
I
mean,
know a little,
projects
but
like
not.
this before, yeah, I mean, projects like this before, as you can imagine, would have been quite a lot of effort at the
Excuse me.
start. Yeah, that's it. It would have been quite a lot of spent quite a lot of time to begin with initially. But now we're at a stage where you could just leverage templates of these tokens,
Mm.
right? It's essentially on the Binance Smart Chain, so the underlying infrastructure is already there, and Binance essentially is a smart chain is a fork of Ethereum
Oh, okay.
blockchain. So if the Ethereum blockchain has been built out, over a number of years,
Yeah.
and a forking of that essentially just leverages the code. And what Binance Smart Chain did is essentially turn that into a proof of staked authority as proof of instead of a proof of work. So this means that rather than just wasting energy trying to mine and prove things on the blockchain to
Mm-hmm.
reach a consensus, they're essentially using this proof of staked authority mechanism. It sacrifices some decentralization, but at the same time, it means that transaction fees are pretty much negligible, and it's
Oh
not
wow.
wasting energy. So from an ESG, environmental social governance perspective, is actually quite prominent in supporting the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. So Binance Smart Chain was the technology of choice. So Transhuman Coin is a BEP20 token. So just like an ERC token on Ethereum, it's the
Right.
Binance version of that
Um,
Binance Smart Chain token
mm-hmm.
BEP20, and that within that token has the smart contracts implemented. So the way that it's currently set out is that for every transaction with Transhuman Coin, 2% of that transaction value, say someone buys Transhuman Coin for $100 worth, then $2 goes to the charity wallet. So essentially, that 2% continues to accumulate the charity funds that we can use to donate. The other 2% goes to the liquidity swap. So essentially, that is a locked liquidity to enable people to buy and sell transhuman coin.
Mm-hmm.
And the other 2% goes to the existing holders so that there is an economic incentive to hold
To
transhuman
hold.
coin. So it's
Right.
kind of like staking, yeah, automatic staking.
Yeah.
You essentially get rewarded for being a long term holder of
Long term
transhuman coin.
hold. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, you want people to
Yeah.
hold on to that, you know? You
Yeah,
don't want them to
exactly.
trade. You want them to hold it.
That's right. We want it to be the Bitcoin and Dogecoin of transhuman coin, like of
Yeah,
transhumanism,
that makes sense to
because all
me.
Tesla and SpaceX are
That's
all
right.
holding Bitcoin as a long-term value. So we have a maximum supply limit as well, 7 billion, and that's trying to figure out that number of every single person on the planet, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we want every single person to be a transhumanist, and by the time we achieve that, we would have achieved our mission because we
Mm.
want to accelerate the transhumanism movement. So if everyone holds one transhuman coin all around the world, our mission is done, right? We just
Mm.
wrap our hands, get mission accomplished, because we would have achieved things like super longevity, we would have achieved super intelligence and super well-being because of these things that we've been helping with the research and charity side of things.
Um, you want to build a research center also, right? With
Yeah,
these
yeah,
funds
yeah.
eventually in Australia.
Yeah, we had a chat with the scientific advisory board just yesterday, last
Hmm.
night, and because it's an early stage of the project, we think a virtual labs would be appropriate given the sort of the costs associated with having an actual physical,
Mm-hmm.
real estate related, research center. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Art Ramon from the US Transhumanist Party
Mm-hmm.
essentially suggested we do the virtual element. We can initially just fund these research projects decentralized, but then eventually just have these virtual labs set up to essentially pursue individual projects that way. So that way, it's not restricted to any part of the world. We don't have to, incur any sort of initial costs of creating, buying, having to rent real estate or buy real estate to do that. So
Right.
yeah, we're trying to apply that agile approach to that too.
Interesting. And the research center is mission is to research and enhance tech uh, longevity and enhancing technologies, right? Human
That's exactly
enhancement
right.
technologies, right?
That's
Okay.
right. Along all those three pillars of transhumanism, and so these could be projects within existing labs. So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, the Buck Institute, we're in discussions with them right now. They're
Oh.
starting to accept crypto soon, so we'll be
Oh,
able to
that's
also
good.
donate to the Buck Institute with Transhuman Coin. Same with the Lifespan.io projects, because the projects that they're crowdsourcing for can be ones that can be funded with Transhuman Coin. And so this is the way that we could essentially get these projects up and running. These are essentially virtual labs of transhumanism and the transhuman coin. And so this is, I feel like this is finally, we found product market fit as a movement. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, all this time we're trying to do these promotional activities of the movement, but it's kind of like kind of like with Greenpeace, right? As a movement, they finally found that product market fit where they know exactly how they can get the movement back onto a single economic incentive. And transhuman coin, I think, is the way to get us there.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And it gives people with less means a stake in this mission to achieve human enhancement technologies and longevity.
Yeah,
So I think it
that's
definitely
right.
is it's a great idea. I told everybody that I know about it, and I will continue
Thanks
to
for
do
sharing.
that. Where can they get the transhuman coin?
Yeah, so it's available to trade on PancakeSwap, which is a Binance Smart Chain decentralized exchange.
Mm.
And so you would need some initial Binance coin, so BNB. So you can buy BNB through a centralized exchange like Binance or other crypto exchanges. And then
Mm.
you essentially send that Binance coin to your wallet in the browser. So your hot wallet, whether it's a MetaMask or a Trust wallet.
Mm.
And so yeah, once you got Binance coin in your hot wallet, you go to PancakeSwap, and then you just select Transhuman Coin, swapping Binance coin for Transhuman Coin. And so yeah, it's relatively straightforward if you have a hot wallet. If you don't, you can also sign up to a centralized exchange called CoinsBit. So
Mm.
we've listed on a centralized exchange called CoinsBit. It's quite prominent in Europe, and that allows you to buy Transhuman Coin directly from CoinsBit.
Wow. I'll have a link underneath the description for people to just hit the link and they can
Thanks for
just
trying.
get everything they need to know about transhumanist coin, the white paper, which describes the purpose of the coin, everything about the coin, its usage, how many is minted. He said, I think Mr. Xing says 7 billion.
That's right. And
You
that's
know,
the maximum supply that will ever be.
right.
Just like Bitcoin's 21 million.
Mm-hmm.
And what we're seeing is that because it started in South Africa, that's the emerging market, and it's the crypto adoption there is incredible.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, we're talking about a 1,200% growth of the past year
yeah.
of crypto adoption throughout the African nations, and the emerging technology adoption there is they've gone mobile first because they've never sort of had that intermediary of centralized banks. And from there, they're now gone crypto first. So directly interacting with crypto, such as Transhuman Coin, and that's actually our biggest adoption with Transhuman Coin at the moment. So it's such a fast growing market. It's empowering economically
Yeah.
for a lot of people there that are unbanked. And so this could potentially be the currency of choice for all transhumanists around the world, and eventually everyone, I hope, to be that sort of means of exchange, as well as a store of value. So what we see is, well, we're upcoming will be an NFT marketplace. So we talked about the murals
Oh,
and how we
wow.
can actually digitize the amazing artwork that people have, done all around the world, but essentially not accessible because of the travel limitations.
Mm.
NFTs for transhumanism artwork. But Trey, if you got some awesome artwork,
Yeah, I
I'll
do.
link you to the form that we've set up. It's
Oh,
essentially
wow.
to capture that. So you just need to fill in the form around the artwork that you upload. Where do you want to get paid in Transhuman Coin? Your public wallet address, and we'll list that on the transhumanism
Wow.
community on their behalf. So that's a service that we're offering for Transhuman Coin holders and also people that want to receive Transhuman Coin for their amazing artwork. Yeah, and
Wow.
there's mechanisms with NFTs, as upon future sales of that, you can continue to receive the royalties as so actually that particular artwork gets traded between users. So you can continue to receive,
Wow.
for example, 10% of every sale of that. And also with Transhuman Coin, you're getting 2% of every transaction. So all of that adds up and rewards those Transhuman Coin holders.
Wow. That's incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna sing it. I'm definitely gonna do that. Wow,
that's awesome.
that's exciting. I want to talk about some other stuff also. I want to talk about in Australia. You're part of a party called the Science Party.
Yeah.
is there any similarities to the Transhumanist Party here in the United States and what the Science Party is doing over there, or is this like
Definitely.
they have
Yeah.
different goals entirely?
Yeah, no, we started as a Transhumanist Party Australia. So
Oh,
we had about 500 members, but we
wow.
couldn't reach the electoral minimum of actually people that were, essentially signing up to the electoral roll to be listed on the election. Right, so there's a
Mm,
minimum required. I think it was about 1,000 members that you needed. So to get critical mass, we actually merged with another minor party called the Future Party. And the Future Party was also had the similar goals and alignments around emerging technologies. How do we use science and technology to address the policy gaps that we have in Australia and around the world? So yeah, it was a natural merger that we had. We managed to also get that minimum required to be put onto the electoral roll. So Science Party Australia is now at every federal election, at every
wow.
state election in New South Wales. And so that's going to continue on. And we've got policies that essentially align with the transhumanism movement. For example,
Mm,
in our health policy, we want to essentially make aging a treatable disease and recognize that for the purposes of our equivalent of the FDA. So that's the TGA over here, the Therapeutic Goods and Association. So they essentially can approve drugs that treat the aging process itself, which provides an economic incentive for pharmaceutical companies to then actually pursue these drugs. Because
wow.
without that, there's no way for them to have a proper business case. There's a high risk that they'll never be approved as a drug because there's no disease to treat at the
Right.
moment recognized by the TGA.
Right. Wow. Well, I know with people like Jeff Bezos investing in life extension, it is
Mm.
soon the pharmaceutical companies are gonna and the FDA over here, the TGA in Sydney, they're gonna start to wake up and say, wait a minute, these people are starting to really get interested, and the money is being invested. I mean, I don't know what Calico is doing right now. I haven't heard
Yeah,
anything about Calico in a while in the
yeah.
news. Have you heard anything about Calico?
Yeah, Aubrey said it was Calico was an initial great initiative, but yeah, Aubrey essentially made a recent statement that Calico was one of the mistakes of this billionaire approach to longevity because they didn't open it up to the rest of the world. It was very sort of siloed, now essentially siloed within an organization that's focused on quarterly profits, listed as Alphabet. So that was one of the initial mistakes. So Aubrey was essentially suggesting to Larry at the time to have that outside of that organization so they can have more freedom to pursue more, I guess, emergent research rather than locked in as a other income or other sort of
Mm,
expenses of the organization. And that's what sort of was one of the initial mistakes. But yeah, he said
mm,
companies like Unity Biotech, where it's essentially a listed company that is pursuing purely on senolytic drugs, that's one of the examples of where the direction should be. So
mm,
I wouldn't be surprised eventually when Altos Labs also lists as a public company, and just like Juvenescence is looking to do, and just like what these private funds are essentially looking to do as well with the longevity fund as well.
wow. What do you think is, from a transhumanist standpoint? What do you think? What technology do you think is going to be disruptive, other than the trucking industry, the self driving
Yeah,
cars? Other than that, I'm definitely seeing self checkouts everywhere now. I'm seeing all the big major department stores have self checkouts,
yeah.
and so they're eliminating the cashier. I definitely see
Mm.
that. What
Yeah,
other
that's just the
disruptive
beginning.
technologies you see that coming down the pipeline that the hip hop nation should be aware of?
Like, I'm
Sorry to
just
put you in
sorry
the
to
hot
say,
seat,
but
Mr. Zane.
every single industry is not safe, right? If you think about any industry that involves the human, uh, I guess let's start with the low hanging fruits. It's the boring, repetitive, and dangerous jobs, as Elon said with his Tesla bot announcement.
Mm-hmm.
This is sort of the industries that are initially going to be disrupted first, but eventually, every single industry that involves humans will eventually be disrupted. So yeah, like you mentioned, the truck industry is probably going to be one of the first in the line. The grocery industry with the self checkouts, we already have the Amazon Go solutions that you don't even need checkouts. You just walk in and walk out after scanning in your Amazon Prime account in there. And so that's going to roll out with the Whole Foods markets as well. And eventually every retailer will have to do that just to stay competitive. There is just an economic incentive to eliminate costs. And I don't see any of that slowing down in light of COVID as well. And so what we're seeing across every single industry, whether it's, the factories that's already been disrupted, we're seeing even things like white collar jobs in finance. And so even things like data entry, there's this software that automatically does that. And robotic process automation is obviously the low hanging fruits that's already been done. But ultimately, anything that can be done in finance, for example, you're seeing these central bank digital currencies. So with blockchain, every transaction is transparent and essentially recorded. You don't need to do any reconciliations, right? It's all there. It's all on blockchain.com, on Etherscan, Binance, BSC scan. And so you can automate these transactions to do the classifications, whether it's tax or reporting for your financials. Just make everything on the blockchain, and that eliminates all of the finance and accounting roles that you can think of. And so really where it comes down to for humans is the ultimate validators, I can see. So it's kind of like, I'm not a robot type, making sure that these capture things are correct. We are essentially the last mile validations as we continue to label things, the algorithm, the deep learning weightings around there. We're essentially training the reinforcement learning. And so what we're seeing is that, as our last mile, we could all just be these human validators, but we don't want this dystopia to be, making humanity irrelevant. We want these technologies to work for us.
Right.
So that's where there's, things like universal basic income, where we should be sharing the dividends of this robotic automation. We should be getting a percentage of every transaction that the robots are essentially doing on our behalf, because, hey, at the end of the day, this is technology serving humanity as opposed to us serving technology, right? Otherwise, you'll have the value capture at the shareholder level only, and not everyone's going to be a shareholder. So that's why Transhuman Coin is so important. For example, as a token holder, we want everyone to be owning the means of production. And we want to see that, currencies and central bank digital currencies and Bitcoin be distributed across everyone that can actually automatically get that dividend, citizen dividend, for being a human being.
Yeah, I sent it to one of my friends today, and he said, I'm already making money right now, Maitreya. I said, well, he said, if I keep going like this, in 5 to 10 years, I'm going to be able to retire. I said, that's fine, and congratulations to you. And I'm very happy that you'll be able to retire in 5 to 10 years. But I said, this is something totally different that you want to invest. You want to have investments that, that serve your heart, like that is a good thing, not just profitable for your wallet. You want to have, you know what I'm saying? You want to have something that's just, it's a good place to put your money because it's good for humanity. And I told him, with this coin, you're going to be able to, these enhancing technologies and the research that's going to go into life extension, I said it's worth it in my eyes. I said,
invest in the future that you want to see. Yeah,
exactly.
And pursue those things that you want to do to find meaning in life. Whether it's, with the Singularity University, we always essentially preach that this is the massive transformative purpose you're going to find in life, where you're aligning what you're good at, what people value, what the world needs, and essentially what you love. So this is sort of that sort of where you're going to find your massive transformative purpose, have a mission statement, but also put your money where your mouth is, and essentially pursue these positive futures.
Yeah, because everybody, and then you have people who, who think like, that we should be trying to figure out how to reverse the aging process. But I tell them, I say, you're not in a compromising health position. So it's easy to make those type of statements where you're not in a compromising health position, meaning you're sick and you have a disease or whatever, God forbid. So, I think people need to think about what they can do to help push the transhumanism life extension community, push the movement forward by using it, by buying this token, this transhumanist token, and promoting it, because I think it's a very valuable thing. I really love this idea, and I'm glad somebody finally did it. So once I seen it, I said, why am I late on this? I seen this. I said, wait a minute. He said something about this August 27th or something like that. I was looking. I said, why did I know? It's September 25th. Why I don't know about this? I didn't know about this earlier. I would have been said something about this. Transhumanist Coin a long time ago. As soon as I would have heard it, I would have definitely said something about it, because I definitely, and a lot of people now are into cryptocurrency. A lot of people now are interested in cryptocurrencies. They understand it a little bit more. I'm seeing, the average person is, getting more interested in it, because they see the benefit. They see other people benefiting from it, and they see it in the media a lot. So
that's right. It's definitely got that, and the project's having actually a real impact now. For example, the funding mechanisms, and so it's gone into that slope of productivity now, and essentially going to be adopted by the institutions, by the mainstream companies in everything that they do. So it's going to be replacing anything sort of financial record, smart contracts, replace some lawyers as well in terms of how they determine who's going to get what. All that is in the code. So it's codified law. But like you say, it's so great that we now can have an economic interest in the movement, and where we want to do is get people to think, okay, well, what if you had a snooze button to the end of your life, right? It's essentially, say you're 80 years old and it's time's up. You just want to hit the snooze button to say, look, I want to live another 10, 20, 30 years of healthy life, and Transhuman Coin is the means to get there. It's how we can fund the research in our lifetimes, and it's never too late. It's never too late, because we are only 1 month into the project, and so it's so early on. We have over 3,000 token holders already, so 3,000 people have bought and held on to Transhuman Coin, and so we want to get that to 7 billion. So as you can see, we've still got a long road ahead, but it's growing exponentially. And thank you so much for promoting the Transhuman Coin on the show, Maitreya.
Thank you. Who came up with the logo?
That was definitely the individual admin and dev team. So that was Jenny. So she essentially thought, how do we actually make it viral as well? And with Transhuman Coin, THC, the color scheme, as you can see, is definitely going. Scheme. And I know you've done some show on some medicinal marijuana, and what Snoop Dogg is doing as Medici. Snoop Dogg is Medici, and so I feel like it's really everything aligns with that brand and theme. And we want to have that viral element. As you can see, the brain and the digitalization of neurons. It's all captured in that one logo. So I think it's pretty awesome.
Wow.
Credits to Jenny.
Let me see. I know I got some other questions. The Singularity University in Australia, they have a physical place, like a physical university in Australia?
It's more of a virtual. It's decentralized, but we do have a working space. So it's called Work Club. Similar to WeWork, it's a co-working space that we host events at. And it's essentially is a branch of Singularity University in Australia. And so there's about 7 or 8 branches all around the world, and we have individual chapters as well. So we have kind of like meetups, but gatherings for local cities in Australia. We have one in Sydney and Melbourne and Adelaide and Perth, and a whole bunch of places all around Australia, so that people can from the bottom up find like-minded people that are pursuing emerging technologies and want to understand more about the coming singularity. And so I think it's the McDonald's of the singularity movement, and it's amazing to see how fast it's grown over the years since Peter D. Mantis and Ray Kurzweil founded it 10 years ago.
Wow, shout outs to them. Shout outs to Ray Kurzweil also. So I guess it's safe to assume that you agree with Ray Kurzweil's timeline.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's moved up the timeline from 2045 as well. Now that we're seeing so much breakthroughs and in the deep learning with reinforcement learning, the amazing work that DeepMind and OpenAI are doing, and also the research done by Tesla and how they're going to turn their current stack of these spatial recurring neural networks. So these, cars are essentially robots, sentient robots on wheels, right? Semi-sentient, because naturally they're able to, navigate the world around them, and even
Wow.
in a 3D environment. So what we saw technology-wise 5 years ago was HD maps, so scanning using LiDAR and cameras to create this three-dimensional view of the world. Well, with spatial RNNs, these neural networks are just using weights to
Mm.
determine what they're seeing and recognizing in their 3D environment. And
Oh,
guess what? That's how the animal kingdom essentially determines vision-based systems and navigating around the world. And that's how the same mechanism that we have in our reptilian brain side to navigate around the world. So it is semi-sentient, with a car on wheels is that type of robot. And, with their product lineup of a Tesla bot, that means it will have the same perspective of the world as a human. It'll have arms and fingers to grab onto tools and learn from there. What will be interesting is, how do you train that perspective? Will it be using things like Neuralink as human validators to confirm those sort of things? Kind of like how the human drivers, the Tesla drivers, are helping correct the autopilot system. Will
yeah,
Neuralink be the autopilot of Tesla bot, right? As
that would be
humans navigate
interesting.
around to correct things if they want to go on autopilot.
Wow. Well, um, so do you think that oh yeah, I know this. I lost my train of thought, but I definitely wanted to ask you about this. Did you hear about um there's supposed to be so you heard of the robot Sophia, right?
Yeah, it's going
Did you
to
hear?
mass production.
That's what I was gonna ask you. Did I read that right? It
Yeah,
is going into
yeah.
mass production, right?
That's
Oh,
right. So it might hit the market before Tesla bot. You're going to have a whole bunch of these animatronic, backed by the OpenCog or Singularity Net powered natural language processing, and also mimic human expression. And it's got an arm and leg. It's going to get legs apparently as well. So,
wow.
but I think it's a great initiative. I know how Jan LeCun thinks about it from Facebook AI. He's always dissing it, saying that
Oh yeah,
it's
I know
really
you're talking
just
about. Yeah,
a puppet, right?
yeah.
But I think at the same time, it really does that engagement with the mainstream population.
Mm,
You really need that human centered AI. You need that human machine interaction baked into the development of these artificial intelligence solutions. Otherwise, we're going to get left out of the loop. So, Sophia enables that direct conversational interaction and
mm,
also understanding our mannerisms in the day to day. And all that learning will go into Singularity Net, which is an amazing initiative from Ben Gertzwell, and what they're doing with Cardano and Ocean Protocol.
mm.
It's just great to see it all coming together. But
Wow.
yeah, I've got one of those little Sophias on pre-order as well.
Oh
I'm sure if you've
really?
seen that. There was a Kickstarter from a couple of years ago, and it
Oh
probably won't ship
wow.
until the end of next year. But I think that was the initiative initially to mass produce these Sophia robots. You're starting with the little
Oh
one, and then you
shucks.
use that same technology stack to upgrade that to the main Sophia.
I didn't think I was reading that right. I was like, wait a minute, is he mass producing this? I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, it's like
I was like,
iRobot, right? Yeah.
yeah, I was like, wow. Um, wow. Well, thank you for coming on. I'm gonna buy a bunch of this. I'm gonna buy a bunch of coins next week. I'm telling you. I'm
That's
telling
awesome.
you.
Okay.
I'm gonna buy as many coins as I can. I'll let
Everybody
you.
better get in quick. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Before it goes up, I will hold
that's
it.
right.
Um,
That's
anything else you
amazing.
want to say to my audience about transhumanism? Anything we should be looking out for? What do you think? All right, before we leave, what technology you think in the near future will have some type of life extension quality to it that will help us extend the lifespan just a little?
Yeah, no, thanks for trading. And yeah, again, it's a pleasure to be on this show. From a technology perspective, I wrote this piece on the iPhone 20
Oh,
because
I seen that.
we always sort of know where the future will get to, but we'll like paint a picture of where they get to. But what's the journey, how we get there? And I think it's with these mainstream technology products and devices that we'll be using. So the iPhone and the Apple Watch has already got some biometrics that essentially capture and quantify our health. And all of that is going to get a little bit better incrementally, as we've seen with the iPhone 13. It's all about a game of inches, but all of that is going to get more and more a better understanding of our health. So these preventative health measures will initially give that longevity escape velocity, right? So knowing exactly when you need to see your doctor, when to get that radiology scan, when to then have that procedure to operate on you ahead of time. And, we're seeing things like, things that can actually do quick blood tests eventually, just using things like the wristbands. And so all those little biomarkers to determine that. I'm using an app called Humanity.
Oh,
And
yeah, I
it's
know about that.
developed by the transhumanist community, and
Yeah.
it's giving my biological age. So
Oh,
I'm actually
wow.
slightly, I think, half a year more than my biological age. So I'm a bit worried. So I need to continually use that as a means of exercise, helping my diet, and do some, mindfulness type exercises. So all of that is really well at gamifying in a simple user experience. So that's the sort of low hanging fruits of what's happening right now. But then I think in the medium term, we're going to see more of these devices going into our bodies. So we're already seeing these nanobots that you could potentially ingest as well to determine things like exact levels in your bloodstream, and also in the future go into your neurons as well. So these are these built these nanobots, right? So not just macro won't be able to go through the blood-brain barrier. And no one wants to go through these operating procedures to drill a hole in your head when you're perfectly fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, eventually that'll also be the mechanisms to deliver drugs and also monitor things in your body. But yeah, eventually I think potential integration with superintelligence could come faster than these longevity initiatives, because longevity will continue to happen. They'll give you, longevity escape velocity. You get more years with every year that passes. But these brain-computer interfaces could potentially allow you to transcend the biological limitations you have and just purely run on a substrate. Now, there's also, the copying problem. That's the thing. That's the thing. People think it's not really you when you
Right.
duplicate it. But yeah, there is, thoughts around how do we do that while you're still conscious and doing one neuron at a time, so one synthetic neuron at a time.
Wow.
And that way you can, guarantee while you're awake that you can actually know that you eventually actually upload it to the cloud. But I think there's two pathways to there. Still not sure which one will get there first, but there might just be a convergence of the two.
Wow. I can't wait to see some computer brain interfaces. I can't wait to use one of those. I'll see. Well, if the Neuralink, I wonder when that's going to hit the market. Hopefully soon.
Right. And it's going to be like bring your own devices at the at your workplace, because companies are going to start seeing their employees bring it, and they're getting a competitive edge to their peers, and they're going to have to make it a fair playing field. So now everyone will have to get the opportunity to have one, funded, subsidized by your employer. So we saw that in the Gartner report for Hype Cycle 2020. BYO devices for brain computer interfaces could be a thing within the next 5 years.
Computer brain interfaces remind me of that movie, The Lawnmower Man from the 80s.
Yeah. The Lawnmower Man.
The Lawnmower Man, right? That reminds me of that. Like, those are the movies. And then the Reanimator. I used to watch those movies. I used to be like, yo, there's some. I was young. I was like, you're sleeping on those movies, man. Those movies, they're a little goofy, but now I'm like, wow, I was onto something as a kid. I was like, Reanimator?
Yeah.
Those was my favorite movies. The Lawnmower Man.
Yeah.
I was like, how they made him intelligent like that? They put him in. They put this brain thing. He was getting too intelligent though. He went crazy.
Yeah.
They pushed the overload button.
Yeah.
And right. He just went crazy. Started getting. But you know how Hollywood twists things.
Sci-fi. That's right. Like Black Mirror. With there was an episode where they all had these implants, and the guy couldn't get the memory of his cheating wife out of his head, so he ripped it out. But the thing is, we need things like White Mirror, which is a TV series that we're working on in Australia. It's like the opposite of the dystopia. We're trying to build how do we actually get to utopia with a positive storyline, at the same time making it interesting and introducing technologies like they do. So yeah, that's going to be great, and we're going to put that on the Transhuman Coin NFT marketplace as well.
Whoa,
that's
a great idea. I'm glad you came here and said that first. Yeah, thank you. That's a dope idea. Well, thank you for coming on. Wow, I'm gonna just end it there. Thank you.
Yeah,
We'll
it's been a
definitely have you
pleasure.
back.
Thank you. Looking
Thank
forward
you.
to it. Thanks, okay.
Thanks. One love, y'all.